There, it's recording. All right, so thank you all for coming. This is our February meetup, Como Game Dev. Yeah, a lot of people here today. We're here to come and hear Dr. Jahnke talk about usability and her work at the iSchools. So yeah, while she presents, if you have any questions, just go ahead and kind of signal to her that you want to ask one. It's going to be a nice interactive presentation. Really focus on anything that you think you can use when you're presenting your game to people to test, to get feedback, especially try to absorb all of this if some people have their games out at testing nights. Not to single any, 2 or 3 people out. Yes, you're welcome. But yeah, that's what these are going to be most useful for. And if you expect to make a game and get it out to be tested anytime in the next 6 months, take copious notes. All right, and with that, I'll hand it over.
Great, thank you so much, Sean. Thanks so much for inviting me, and you probably want to know where my accent is coming from. So my name is Isa, like Isabel without the bell. And my last name is Jahnke, and that is a German last name. So I grew up in Germany.
Jahnke, sorry.
That's okay, don't worry. Please call me Isa. I'm super fine with that. I grew up in Germany, and I lived in Sweden, and I started here 5 years ago. So that's my 5th year at the University of Missouri. I live here in Columbia, Missouri. In Sweden, I lived 5 years. So that is in really cold, dark winter. So that's the reason why I moved. Otherwise, Sweden has a great community, game community. So they are also nice in design. If you want to have connections to Sweden or the Nordic countries like Norway, Denmark, I'm happy to give you connections if you want to visit them or maybe invite people over. So whatever you want. Okay, so let's get started. Again, please call me Isa. I am Associate Professor in Learning Technologies, and we are located in the College of Education. And within the College of Education, we have 4 departments, and our department is the School of Information Science and Learning Technologies, and that is an iSchool. An iSchool is an interdisciplinary kind of association here in the United States. We have also iSchools now in Europe, but it started in the United States, I think, 20 years ago, I'm not so sure. But an iSchool is interdisciplinary. Like people like me coming from educational research, educational technology, but also computer science people or information science people. So we try to combine pedagogy, learning, game development. We have a new game lab over there. I think Sean knows them, right? Mission Hydro Science. So it's a lot of different things going on in our school. Also, in that school, we have the ielab. And the ielab actually is really old. It started 2003. So long before I came here. And the ielab means Information Experience Lab, but what its founder, Sander Erdel, is actually meant with Information Experience Lab is actually Usability and User Experience Lab. 2003, nobody talked about user experience, so that's rather a new term, but a lot of people talked about usability. But all schools called it Usability Lab, so that was really innovative to call it Information Experience Lab. So what is the idea of the ielab? So we want to work with clients together, and we do that, for example, with the School of Journalism, College of Engineering, Computer Science, also people outside of the university. We try to help them to design technology and to improve learning technologies. That can be a lot of different things, but our focus is digital technology. So that could be really easy websites, how to improve websites, but also super big systems like VR, AR, or cybersecurity systems, or artificial intelligence systems, depending on the client who needs our service. So we also work with the medical school, School of Nursing together. For example, they invented alert systems for older adults. Alert systems are things where they try to detect faults of older or elderly. And so in Tiger Place, not far away from here, it's an elderly facility, they invented, they installed that alert system, and nurses should use it. So now here's the thing, to develop a game, nobody's using it. Why? And that happens with the alert system. So they installed that, the researchers and designers thought, great idea, but they're surprised nobody's using it. And so they asked us to study why the nurses don't use it. And we figured out that nurses want to use it, but it doesn't work with the technology they have with the old and new smartphones. So really one important thing is, instead of developing and installing and implementing, really do user experience or usability testing really early in your game. And you can do that, and I have the ideas for you today, how you can do that early in your development. Instead of having a game ready, really iterative user testing all the way along until you're really ready to launch it. So a lot of talk now about the ielab. So whenever you have questions, it's absolutely good to interrupt me. So just have a question or a comment, or you don't understand me, maybe my accent is too rough or too difficult, let me know. I'm happy to use other words. So usability, what we try to do here is, what is actually usability, right? So usability measures the quality of a user's experience with your technology. That could also be non-digital technology, right? As I know, not all of you build digital games, right? Who's building or developing or designing digital games?
No.
Okay, and the others, what kind of games? How many of you do other games, like non-digital, I would call it?
Board games.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Other games here in the room? Okay. So you can do user testing, of course, also without the digital part, right? You can ask users coming in and ask them to play early in the system to understand if the rules you designed, if a user actually, or that person who plays, if they understand your rules, for example, right? You can do that really, really early. So the idea here is really bring the user early into the design and development cycle. So you have a lot of iterations until you finally launch. Probably you have heard another term here, it's agile development. So that really means, instead of having 1 year development where you waste maybe the time and other resources, and then you ask the user, really have a user every month coming in. So that means agile, really quick cycles of, you develop something, you test, you learn from the tests, you improve it because of the tests or testing results, and then you redesign and do it again. And that can be even within a week. Doesn't have to be a month, depending how fast you are, how fast you get the user or the potential player to play your game. So, but the main idea is really the user experience. We call it also UX. And a new trend is in learning technology also to call it learner experience, LX. So maybe player experience is PX, I don't know. I never heard of that word, but everything about UX is it's a research field and practitioner field. So what we try to measure, or what we try to test, is how easy it is to use the technology or your game. So I always try to think about what does it mean for you as game developers. So how easy it is to play the game, how easy it is to understand the rules, right? We can translate ease of use with how easy it is to A, B, D, whatever you want to test. We want to understand the user satisfaction. Does he like to play your game, he or she? What does he or she like? What is a dislike from the user's perspective? So ask about that too, not only likes, but also dislikes. You don't have to agree with your users, but it helps you to understand how a user would see your game, right? It's about getting another perspective of, and that is super, super important. So it's kind of what we call validation of that your thinking is going into the right direction, means other users want to play the game. Of course, there are other things. Maybe when you have enough users, and you have then higher satisfaction, it's easier for you to sell the game as well. Okay. So I have on the next slide a lot of different methods. Hopefully you can apply in the next weeks. Just an overview here. So usually, and probably almost all of you know that. So we have these 5 steps usually, right? You have a first idea, you create somehow a kind of requirement, a document, you have a conceptual design, you create a paper mock-ups or even digital prototypes, and you go into production and launch the game. But this is really important, even it sounds like super strict. this should be an iterative process. What we learned over the last years in research, and that's what most of the big software companies are doing, really agile software development. It was really 10, 20 years ago, like they developed the software for a year, then they asked the users, and then they were surprised that the software is not really working from the perspective of the users. So now it's really 1 week, a lot of, or just 2 weeks, where the big companies like Google really have smaller features and they test that already with the users. So the idea of you have ideas, you get feedback from the users, you continue with your ideas, you improve it. This is the idea of iterative process design and using usability methods and user experience methods to understand what they think about your game. So for the next 5-10 minutes, I have about 10 methods here, and not all of the methods. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about the last slide.
Yes.
How early is too early to start this process?
You mean having the users on board?
Right. Yeah. Like how far along should you be before you?
I think there's no too early. I mean,
Sure.
you need a thought, you need an idea, but even that idea can be discussed with others. So it really depends how comfortable you feel. I think the main message here is I have the feeling that most of the people wait too long to bring the users on board, and my message would be don't wait too long. When you already have maybe thought about it for a while, you have presented maybe here in the room with other people who also are game developers, you should bring in other users who are not part of that community. Or maybe you even have a first pilot within the room here, right? So treating other colleagues here like the potential users, just to understand how the process of usability testing works. And when you feel comfortable, you can bring other users in, or you go to them and ask them and make a usability test with them. So paper prototype for me should be really the first version where you do it.
Thank you.
I mean, that's my opinion. There is no really right or wrong. It's rather when you think you really need now the user's perspective. And from my point of view, when I'm working with clients, they usually come too late. They all come to ielab when software is already there. They all come too late, far too late. And then we give them all the feedback from the users, and they are surprised that the users don't like it or they can't use it. And then they think, oh my gosh, all the money what went to a software development team, I can't do it. Then they tell us, oh, you have the wrong users. They are too stupid. They are not the users we really want. No, never ever blame the user. Don't do that. So when users can't use it, it doesn't mean they are stupid, not at all. So don't do that. Okay, so 10 methods. Not all of them can be used for all of you. You have maybe 2, 3 which you like most. You can, depending on your game, one of the methods make more sense than other methods. But I would love to present all of them, maybe, yeah. Okay, so one of the most important methods is called task performance and user testing. There is actually a nice website. I don't know if you know or shared already. It's usability.gov for government, I think. So usability.gov is a good website to understand a lot of the things I talk about today, but also when you want to have details. But it's not for game developers though, right? But it's for digital technology. It's really a good website getting resources about game development and usability testing. So the task performance / task-based analysis or / usability testing, you will find the first one under a lot of this one here. You will find this one under a lot of different names. So not just task performance. So the idea here is you ask about 10 to 12 users playing your game. And I say 10 to 12 because research found out when you have 10 to 12, they will identify 95% of the major problems of a technology or your game. I think that also hopefully will apply to game development, I'm not sure. You can also have just 5 in the beginning. 5 means around 85% of the problems would be identified. When you have even more, like 20, you would, instead of 95, they would figure out 99%. But because 20 is really partly, from a pragmatical point of view, you need 20 users, you usually have 20 hours, it's a lot of work. So that's the reason why most of the researchers and the UX field says 10 to 12 users is really sufficient for you to do that. That would mean per user you have 1 hour per user, so 10 to 12 hours for data collection. So for each person, you have to calculate around 1 hour when you do that. So usually what you do.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you need different types of users, or can they?
Good question. Yes, comes later, but I'm happy to. So important is, of course, I haven't talked about that yet. Who are your users? So I cannot answer that for you, but in a team or with your own thoughts, you have to think about who is actually my user group, my target audience, and do you have more than one or several people? So when you, of course, have, for example, 20-year-old, I don't know, girls, when you have, 10-year-old teenagers, or you have 80 plus older adults. So these 3 target audience, you need from each age group, you would need 10, or at least 5. 5 is the minimum. So depending who your target audience in the game is, who is playing your game. So you have to define who are your people playing the game. Because it doesn't make sense to ask an 80 plus or 60 plus older adult when you actually mean that game to play for a 10-year-old boy or girl, right? That doesn't make sense. Makes sense, maybe. I don't know.
If you met my father, you might think, maybe it does work like that.
Yeah. So in research, we would differentiate and would say target audiences. When we have 3 from each group, we would have at least 5 people. So for the task performance, you have figured out your users, you define them, and then in the usability testing, and I give you an example first from the technology field, and then we try to gather maybe to translate that to the game development. So when you have a website, for example, you will find the idea is to define 10 tasks what that user can do on the website. So think about, I don't know, University of Missouri website. People should find information about enrollment system, should find information what can be studied there, maybe about donors, scholarships, I don't know. But you have to define 10 tasks what the website actually tries to support the user with. Because the technology is there to make a task more efficient for the users. So you define the task, and then once the tasks are defined, then each user will go through the task and try to figure out, okay, I have the task to find the website where I can enroll in a program. Now you put the user in front of the technology and give her or him the task, and he or she has then to find that specific website, where can I enroll? And depending how good you designed the technology, it's faster or it's an incomplete. So it means you can have a task where the users are not able to complete the task, then it would count as incomplete, or they are able, and then you count the seconds or minutes, how long did each user take to complete the task. So what does that mean for games? So one thing I can think about it, you have specific rules, and you need them to understand the rules. You could think about, okay, please understand my rules first. Can you find the rules on my digital game, wherever that is? Another is, please play that game within a short section with another user. You can ask them, please find what the goal of the game is. What is actually the mission, vision, or goal, what you have in mind. So you can think about it like these kind of tasks. You want to know how good have you designed already your game. So, and then you ask the user, okay, please find the goals of the game, please find the rules of the game, or you can be more specific. I have a specific rule, for example, you have to work with a different person together to play the game. Where is that rule? Please tell me where that is. Then you play the game, and with another person together, and then you tell me if you could play the game or not. In the entire process of this kind of task-based performance, you would have video recordings, or at least you would be an observer. Means you put the user in front of the technology or the game, and it is a board game. You observe them like a shadow observer. You should not intervene if not necessary. Maybe when they got stuck and they can't continue, maybe then you give some hints. But the idea is really to give each user a certain amount of time and to go through the tasks that you define that they should do. You do that with every user. You have 10 or 12. And then you can see, did they complete the task? If yes, perfect. Hopefully all of them, not 50-50. How long? Hopefully under 1 minute and not 5 or 10 minutes or even more. And so you can measure how long it did take and if they could complete the task. And that is then the efficiency of use. In the end of the task-based, so during that idea, two things. First, when they do the user test, when you do the user testing, you ask also the user to think aloud. That is a methodology or a method. That means you ask them, okay, play the game, board game or digital game, and whatever you see, whatever you do, please think aloud what you see or what you think when you're doing it. This is super important information for you because you can't look into the brain of the user. So it's really important that they do that. Think aloud is a super important method. So for example, when they take several minutes and look in that corner here or on the board game, on that corner, but you know they have to look there, then they should say something about it like, I can't find it, I look here and there. And so you can understand a little bit that somehow the design does not help them to look actually over there. They all look over there on the bottom right, so there's something wrong with the design. It's not designed like you want to have the users look at. And so think aloud is really important. Please ask all the users to think aloud while doing the user testing. So what we usually do, we combine the task performance together with think aloud and together with the SUS survey. The SUS survey is super simple. You all can apply it to all games, digital technology, and you also can apply it to board games. I never did, but I'm pretty sure you can. You go again to the usability.guf, and I'm happy to send the link actually. Can you send me an email that I do? Yep. Because this usability scale is super, super important. It has only 10 items, so 10 questions for each user, so they can do it easily within, 1 or 2 minutes. And it's really easy. They ask about, I think that I would like to use this website frequently. So of course you change the term website to game, right? I think that I would like to use this game frequently. I found this game unnecessarily complex and so on. So you have 10 items, all strongly disagree to strongly agree, and all users fill that survey. Then you have another template, how to calculate the score, and you can't just edit. So there's a specific calculation. It's easy. There's a template for that too. And then you get a score between 0 and 100. The higher the score, the better your system or game is. It should be over, I think it was 70 or 65. When you have a number under 65, you probably have users who have really problems with the game design, and you need to go back to the task analysis and understand what was the problem. So here you have observation data and people who are playing it together with Think Aloud. Here you have really a kind of quantitative survey, really easy, but of course people have to play it first, otherwise they can't fill that survey. And that is a reliable and what we call a research valid survey instrument, which is it measures what you want to measure, and it measures it also repeatedly every time you use it again. So this is a super, super easy to use survey. So what we also do, in the end, so think about, we have the users in the room, we tell them, okay, here's our study idea, we tell them this is our game, we tell them, okay, Our goal today is to understand what you think about and how you experience the game. Then we start with a task of performance. We give them the task. That we think aloud. We tell them what to do. In the end, they have the SUS survey, and then we have one other thing. It's not focus groups, but it's similar. We have individual follow-up interviews. So what we do is we ask in these interviews, tell me what do you like, if any, and tell me what don't you like, and if any, can you tell me what it is? So dislikes and likes, and also design recommendation. From the user's perspective, you don't have to agree with that, but to get additional ideas about what they like and what they disliked. And that is not in a focus group, that is really individual follow-up interviews. What you also can do in individual interviews is, maybe in the think aloud, they said something you didn't really understand, so in the follow-up interview here you say, okay, you said something here, can you please elaborate on that? Because I really didn't understand if you liked it or where the problem was. So to get another idea from the users. So these follow-up interviews are really important. A totally other thing, there is a second method here, is called focus groups. You invite all 10 to 12 users in one room, so just 1 hour, maybe 2 hours together. Maybe they play the game, and then you ask about specific questions. What do you like? What do you don't like? Do we have any design recommendations? The interesting thing is focus groups are more creative. So that means the people can help each other to go to the next level. So instead of having one person in front of you and you know what he or she is thinking, a focus group really can be helping you to design something you haven't thought about. So it's a different purpose to do the focus group interviews. We call it focus group interviews because you usually have all together in the room. You have to prepare for that a kind of interview questions, like 10 or 5 main questions you want to ask in this thing. Usually we do an audio recording at least, so that because when you are the facilitator and interviewer at the same time to manage 10 users, that could be a lot of cognitive workload for you. So it's good to video or audio record that you later can listen actually to the results. So I always recommend to video audio record whatever you do with the users, just because when I go out of that room today, sometimes after my presentation, sometimes I didn't even know what I talked about, because it's so in the moment. You really need to have that recording in the end. Super, super important. That means you need to ask them for permission to do that, of course, in the beginning, right? You need a consent. Yes.
I have a comment about the scale.
Yes. There's the SUS scale.
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose in general it's generally a positive thing for a website to be easy to use, but I guess it occurs to me that with game designers and players that want a challenge, it may be, if they're indicating that something was easy, that might actually be a negative.
Right, and easy means not that the game is easy, or is not that mean. So the SUS does not capture if the game is easy or not easy, right? I understand your comment. But here, for example, is a question, I felt very confident playing the game. You can ask that, right? Mm-hmm. You also can ask, I would imagine most people would learn to play this game very quickly. So the rules, it's about understanding, right? Makes sense. So it's not about how easy the game is. That is not what the SUS capture.
I was just looking at the third one down. If the word
play
play is interchangeable with use.
Yeah, so probably I thought the game rules were easy to understand. So you probably have to adjust a little bit. Sure. At least this one, right? Yeah. Good point.
If you apply it to something like Dark Souls, if Dark Souls was difficult to play, no one would play it. It's hard, but it's not difficult to play.
Sure.
That makes sense.
That is the difference, exactly.
Yeah, I played Path of Exile, and they do the community does a really good job of by themselves making a distinction between this is the difficulty of the game, or you guys have built an interface you could do better. Right. That conversation always seems to manage itself.
Yes. Yeah. So that is a good difference. Yeah, that is really good. Yeah, important. So here are some methods that might be interesting for you, maybe not. So card sort is the idea. You have ideas for a game. You don't know where to put the button. You don't know where to put the rules. You don't know exactly really where to design what. So card sort would be, you have some things in mind, you put it on shorter kind of postcards, and then you play around with the users together. So not you alone, but maybe a team, could be people here in the room, or even the users. So to play around, okay, where would you put that content? Where would you put the rules? Where would you start the game? So that is called card sort method. And we do that usually before we actually develop digital technology. When we have a paper prototype, we usually work with the software developers together to get an idea, okay, where do they actually want to see what kind of button on the website, for example. A cognitive walkthrough is something, so the cognitive walkthrough is when the users don't really play your game. It is a walk through the game. So in a way, you would talk to them, this is how I want to design the game. This is the goal, these are the rules, more or less. This is how you play, what do you think about it? So it's not that you already have a game ready to play, but you can share your ideas, and so this is a kind of a walkthrough methodology. So understanding together with the users and getting feedback and collect data, what they think about it. And there are a lot of different walkthrough methods out there. So cognitive walkthrough is one of them. And then the last, oh no, not last two, right? No, okay. Also a little bit more complicated, or not complicated, but maybe not that easy to find because you're all game developers, you're all creative. But one of the things in UX is a comparative evaluation. Means you do not have users, but you would try to identify similar games close to yours, and then you do a kind of a system evaluation. You review the others and you review yours. You can ask other people to do that for you so that you don't have a bias for your own game. But that is another idea to think about what is the closest thing, what is already there, where you can compare your idea with. And then you make that review. Okay, these are there already, this is mine, what are similarities and differences, and what can I learn from them, how that I can improve my game. It's not that you want to be like them, I know, absolutely not. But what can you learn from the others when you review both of the systems, when you have, for example, one is out there and yours. Then another tool, and I don't know if this is also applicable for gaming. Also on the ielab website, or again the usability.gov website, you find heuristics. Heuristics are, in that case it's from Nielsen, but there are a lot of other heuristics, but these 10 Nielsen heuristics are a kind of, what is that called, sum of rules.
Rule of thumb.
Rule of thumb,
yep.
Thanks. Rule of thumb. So each heuristic is a kind of, you want to see if your game is, okay. So Nielsen created these 10 heuristics. They are out there since the 90s for digital technology, not for game development. So you can see if you can use them. So for example, one of the technologies is, one of the heuristics is the system builds the real world, is somehow connected to the real world. I don't know if that really is useful for you to apply. But go through the heuristics, maybe some of them are useful for you. So the idea would be you use these 10 heuristics, you see your game, and then you try to figure out if you match with these heuristics or not. And if not, what can you do to improve your game? I think there's actually, there needs to be research done, and that could be something, heuristics for game development. I'm not so sure if there's anything out there. If you know from Mission Hydroscience or so, let me know. There could be something in the future I'm happy to work with you on. How can we build actually, similar to Nielsen, Como, game, dev community heuristics, right? Something like this. What can we learn from this community to create these heuristics that other game developers can also use for their games? So there could be something new. So in a way, what you can do, or what we do in the ielab, we usually do the heuristics for a client, so they ask us to evaluate, and what we usually do we have 4 PhD students or other trained students in the lab, and they apply the heuristics to that digital technology of the client. So the client does not do that usually, so he asks other people doing it. And personas is actually the question of how many users or target audience do I have. So persona is a term where you want to create this kind of postcard with everything is fake here because that person does not exist. But you would have it's not really a diverse picture I picked here, right? A white man, I should have picked maybe something else. But usually who is your target audience with a photo, and then you describe that potential person. Like what is in that case, it was a research person, and I don't know exactly what I put here. I don't know. So you have different target audience to try to understand your target audience, and you call it personas. What is that? What kind of different people would you expect to play your game? So that you get a better understanding who is your audience, and then once you know that, you can better go back to your game and think, for these kind of personas, do I actually develop my game? So it helps you to understand how to improve the game, and it also helps you to identify potential users outside in the real world as users testing your game.
I do want to add, it is Ian the Independent, and it is very important when making personas that alliteration is there. Because I've never not seen it there. If it's not there, it means you're going to forget what that person is and what that person does.
Good note.
And then, of course, when you have a digital game, I don't know how to do it with a board game, but with a digital game, hopefully you have in the back something like data analytics, where you can, of course, see who is playing it, how long, and so on. So a lot of different data, hopefully, you can build in the game, and that depends on the game you have, what kind of data analytics you need for that. Here, you probably can invite someone else from, and you show them for data analytics, right? When you want to know more about that part. I'm not an expert in that.
You can absolutely run data analytics into a tabletop game.
Oh, cool.
The game that I'm making right now, I was telling Cassie earlier, I built a set of Java classes to simulate the game mechanics and also to make basic player activities, so I could just tell them, like, run 10,000 trials and scrape for these statistics, go, and that's how I balanced my game. So I would absolutely say that applies.
That is fantastic. And the other way, is how would you know when the user really plays your game, right? So for designing, I understand, but you would not see when you sell it who is playing it, right? Or can you do that as well?
Oh, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So when you do not have a digital game, but when you have a board game or something, how would you track the analytics of a user playing the game?
Oh, yeah, that's not happening.
No, okay. You can ask the users to video record themselves and then to analyze the data, but that is, too much effort, and that doesn't make sense. That is what I mean. Data analytics are rather, you have already a digital game, people are playing it, and what can you learn from that?
Sure, if we're talking about post-production.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be, you would be able to track sales, but that's your only tool.
Yeah.
Well, you have return rate too. People ship your box back.
Let's be positive.
Yes.
You know, tabletop simulator? If you build it.
I was going to say that might be a way.
For sure.
I don't know if they have built-in analytics. There's a program called Tabletop Simulator where you can stick in your own rules and be able to play it. If they have analytics in there, then
At the very least, we download and stuff, some information on it.
yeah. Then
And usually you capture too much data, so please be careful with all it, because when you have too much data, you get lost what you really want to understand from it. So I think less is really more here, but it doesn't make sense to capture all the data, or at least when you do it, focus on, when you use the data for the analysis, and focus on some things you really want to actually understand. Actually, this is the end. I have some tools, maybe for the also for the game boards actually. So eye tracker might be interesting for you to use. So we have a mobile eye tracker. Mobile means really glasses like this, but of course technical glasses where you really see where the user is looking at. You have then heat maps and see, okay, they should look there, but they look here. Okay, there's a mismatch, and so you better see where the person is looking at. We have Moray, that is a software system tool, so all the task-based analysis with Think Aloud, SUS, survey, and the follow-up interviews are recorded in Moray software. So this is one of the most important tools in UX. So it helps you, but you can, when you don't have it, don't worry, you just can video record everything, and then you measure the time and all the things you need to understand. You really don't need that software. I don't know, I think that's really expensive, I have no idea. It was there when I came to the lab. For example, if you have remote testing and you want to have users in other states or in other cities, Zoom, Skype, whatever you use, and just record it, and then maybe that is easy already, and you have the data ready to analyze. So these are things we have in the ielab a little bit more. Yeah, we do in-person and remote usability testing, something for you to think about, not just in person, but also maybe remote testing can be done nowadays. And then new trends in usability is really VR, AR, mixed R, 360-degree videos, how actually to capture user experience settings here. So I am here, I know, I'm happy to help, but some things I research are really new. So there is not always an answer right now there. So when you're building a game with that, researchers might be interested in working with you together to also create methods, how to do user experience testing. Yeah, there are other things probably not right now important. If you have any questions, please email me. I'm happy to send the email to Sean. I mean, you have my email. Or you go to our ielab website or Google me and ask me questions now. Thanks.
It seems like you're focused, my mind is, you're focused on getting the one best experience. Part of me is thinking, we've got games, the users might want options that you can put in a video game, or they may want alternate rules perhaps, or you may find out, oh, I've got this one game, and I've got this one group of users that want to go in this direction, this other user want to go in this direction. I'll make 2 games out of it. So it may not be trying to converge to the right idea, but being willing to fork and move out in 2 different directions. Say, hey, I've got 2 games here that I'm trying to make it one, or something like that.
Yeah, that is one option to do 2 games, but you also can think about when one user group is saying they want more rules or alternative rules, and the other group is saying, no, we don't. Maybe it's really the target audience is not well defined, means there are some things really which distinct the groups, and you have to figure out what it is. When they want to have more flexible rules, you can do that. You don't need to have 2 games. You can say, users who want to play the game, here are the basic rules. If you want to use alternative rules here, go to that other, click here to go to that other, still one game. But you can, so when you get these kinds of design recommendations from the user, you need to think carefully what can you learn from it. That does not necessarily mean that you have 2 games. It can mean where to showcase the rules, how to make it clear to the users, here are the basic rules, but if you really want to be more flexible, here you can create alternative rules with me together. So I think in that direction, it depends really on your situation. And then of course, the third step is really, you maybe have 20-year-olds and 50-year-olds, and depending on these 2 target audiences, you need 2 games. I'm not sure, it depends on the game.
Yeah.
Personas can really help with that, to know your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked a lot about, defining your audience by gender or by age. I wonder, I know there's a survey floating around, I think it's on Qualtrics actually, the gamer motivation survey, and I wonder if that would be a useful tool for grouping your target audience.
Right, and the personas is not just age and gender, it's much more. It's also the motivation the user has, and it's also motivation, what else is in personas? Motivation, you characterize a person not just because of maybe cultural background, maybe interests or hobbies they have, so it's much more, but yeah, I limited in my presentation on that, sorry for that. But there's much more to a persona, just not only gender and age, yeah.
And there's already personas for game design basics, so you can easily grab
Yeah.
those to start from.
And that is, I think, really important, yeah.
I think the most challenging, when you're talking about your target audience, one of the most challenging types of user to find and one of the most valuable that you can hold on to is what I refer to as the troublemaker. I've got about 3 guys that are part of my normal gaming group, and if they test, they'll look for places where they can break the rules and like take advantage where it isn't intended in the game over another player. That's the valuable, and you really have to just find them. You can't just make that up. You have to know those creative.
I like
thinkers.
that very much. That's
Yes,
cool.
yeah. Very, very, very valuable. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. That is actually good advice maybe for all of you to have people on board to tell them, okay, what do you call them, troublemaker? So have troublemaker as a user in the field to understand if they can break the rules.
But the thing is, like, if you are in control of the testing, you really have to look outside of your resources to find that, because without those people seeing those corners that you didn't check, it's
so
really,
depending on what is your target audience. I mean, at the university there are so many students who love to play without getting paid for that. So I think you will find a lot of people there. Really, I mean, there are so many people who want to play probably, and I'm happy to give you feedback on your games.
We may have to work together
Yeah.
to raise that group up, because it's very hard for people outside the university to advertise to
I'm happy.
students.
I'm happy.
So-
I'm happy to be that connection and to try to find people. And right now I have people in mind who are here, but they're usually from Asia. So I don't know if that is your target audience, but they love to play. Or I can spread it out in my department, even to computer college of engineering. I know people over there, and so you can
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
I'm happy to be that connection.
We can have special playtest nights for the people that are about to launch and really want that outside, completely unknown, non-game developers to look at it.
why you keep looking at me, Sean?
Because I know someone in the room is getting ready to publish.
I'm working on it, man, I promise you. It's a lot of work.
All right. Well, thank you again, Issa. So, as she said, I will go ahead and just give everyone your email.
Yes.
So get ready. Hopefully you won't get flooded by too many people on Discord or from Discord and stuff like that. Otherwise, just for everyone to know, it's May 2nd. Is that the expo?
If that is the
Yeah, the 2nd of May.
Yeah.
That is 2nd of May.
So 2nd of May is the Como Game Expo. This is the 2nd year. One of Issa's students may be presenting, hopefully, and giving a talk on doing PhD research on esports. So definitely come and do that, especially if you have, if you know people that have kids that are interested in games and they're very much you can't make a job out of that, that's not good. Come have them watch, because apparently some really awesome results, as well as the fact that it means that someone got their PhD studying esports. So you have 2 different tracks that you can go there. Besides that,
I'll add to the expo. If you have a game that's a board game or a video game that's currently in development that you want to show off to a crowd of hundreds of people, talk to Sean or I. We're taking signups for the exhibition area of that particular event, and there are hundreds of game enthusiasts there. So
otherwise known as probably over 1,000 people are going to be going through this thing.
Yeah, so it's a big deal. You're going to get a lot of eyes on your game. It's $50 for a table.
For a table.
And $100 for like a 10x10 space for VR if you got a VR thing.
Yep.
Well, not to ask an odd question, but some conferences, when you walk in, they say, by walking into this conference, you're giving permission to be recorded. Is that part of this as well? It'd be useful if you had a plate table to have a camera over it.
Yeah, I
But you don't have
believe,
fill forms.
I believe that's part of it.
Yeah, I don't want to say for sure, but I think that is part of and that's not really our department. We're just the exhibition area. But yeah, I think that's kind of what they did last time.
I think as an attendee, I think it's a $15 fee to get in, but that's because you get access to the expo, watching the tournament, watching the talks, all of that sort of stuff while you're in there. But can't remember, I think you get like two free spots, 2 free tickets.
Yeah, if you sign up as an exhibitor,
Yeah.
you get two
So your-
free tickets.
Your
to the
booth
whole
basically
event.
costs $20,
Yeah.
and you get 2 people to go there. And then besides that, of course, Como Game Jam 7, we're gonna start losing count, is 29th, 30th, and 31st of May. And that's gonna be at Columbia College again because they're hosting in their amazing new hall yet again. Yep. And it's gonna be even bigger and even better this year. And people are offering to help in brand new, awesome ways, so yeah. That is about it. Let's see, it's gonna be April will be our next testing night, I believe, since January was our last one. So absorb all of this, you have 2 months.
Okay. Can you make this presentation available?
Yeah.
The slideshow?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I sent the slides to Sean.
Perfect.
And you have it video recorded or not?
Yes, I have been recording. So, yep, we'll find somewhere to host it on the site.
For sure.
So, all right, thank you again.
Thank you.
And stick around and talk or head home, your choice.
Please eat more food too.
Yes, eat the rest of the food.